What's going on YouTube? It's Ashley Reeves from Snowboard Panda. In this video, I'm going to go over everything you need to know to hit your first box. I'm going to go over everything you need to know to 50-50 a box for the first time. The best thing to do first in a terrain park, excluding any small jumps, is 50-50 a box. The reason is boxes are easier, of course, than tubes and rails. They're easier than any other miscellaneous features you might see in the park. And the easiest trick on the box is the 50-50, which is of course just riding straight over it. Alright, so the first thing you need to do to 50-50 your first box is find the best box to try this on. So most likely in your terrain park where you snowboard, you have more than one box to choose from. Then I'm going to go over how you pick the best one to start with. So it may be common sense, it may be easy, but just in case, I'm going to go over 3 things that make a box easier or more difficult. Alright, so number 1 is height. The lower the box is, the closer it is to the ground, the easier it is. If a box is lower to the ground, then there's obviously less consequence if you fall. And also for your first box, you really want to avoid one that you have to ollie on. Being able to just ride onto the box without having to worry about that makes things a lot easier. So the first thing is find a box that is low to the ground, and ideally one that it's easy for you to just ride onto the box without having to ollie or jump. Alright, the second thing is width. Just like it's easier when the box is lower to the ground, it's also easier when the box is wider. So the wider boxes give you more room for air. One thing that people really struggle with their first time on a box is going straight and getting all the way to the end of the feature. So the wider the boxes, the more room you have to actually make it to the end without going off the side. So you want to look at the boxes that you have in your park and find one that is a bit wider. Alright, so we're looking at height of the box, width of the box, and the last thing, the third thing, is the shape. The easiest shape is, of course, a flat box. So what you want to do is you want to look for a box that is the flattest box. So the reason that a flat box is easier is because you have to worry less about your body positioning and your posture. So one of the things that's really important for making it across the box without falling is how you are standing, how you have your body positioned. And if a box is flat, then you don't have to worry about anything changing as you're going along. Right, you get on the box and then from the beginning to the end, it's the exact same. So this makes it a lot easier when you're starting out on a box, so you don't have to worry about adjusting your positioning as you're going along. So everything that I'm going to go over in a minute about how you are standing will be way easier to follow if the box is relatively flat. Alright, so we have height, width, and shape. So obviously the easiest possible box is one that is completely into the snow and really wide and completely flat. But just look at all of your options, the boxes in your park, and find the one that is the easiest based on these 3 things. Alright, so now that you've picked the best box to try this on, there are 2 things that I'm going to go over. First is the approach to the box, and then second is actually what you're supposed to do on the box. Alright, so when approaching a box, there are 2 things to think about: speed and direction. When it comes to speed, the most common problem I see is people go too slow. You want to make sure you have enough speed to actually get to the end of the feature. If you're going too slow and you've done too many speed checks, you can actually get stuck on top of the box, and obviously that's not what you want, right? So make sure that you have enough speed to get to the end of the feature. You can have too much speed, of course, but most likely if you have a speed issue, it'll be the opposite and that you're actually going too slow. If you're not sure how fast to go, watch someone else hit the feature first and take a look and see where they've done their speed checks and about how fast they're going, and that'll give you some idea. When doing speed checks to slow down before you hit the box, try to do those a little higher up before you get to the box. Instead of doing a bunch of speed checks all the way to the box, you want to do them higher up, and then as you're actually approaching the box, you want to approach it straight. So this gets into the second thing, which is direction. When you're actually going onto the box, you want to be going as straight as possible. So if you're doing a bunch of speed checks right before you get on the box, it's going to make it a lot harder for you to stay completely straight. And obviously, if you are at an angle or you're approaching the box at an angle, you're not going to make it all the way to the end of the feature, and instead you're going to ride off the side. So do your speed checks ahead of time and then approach the feature completely straight. That'll give you enough speed and also keep you straight and lined up properly. If you do get on the box and you realize that you are not lined up straight, or you realize it right before you get on the box, just go with it and ride straight off the box and keep going. It's no big deal. What you could also do when you're trying to gauge the speed and really working on your direction is you could just go and stop a little bit above the box, and then from there simply ride straight onto the feature. That way you don't have to do any speed checks ahead of time and really trying to get lined up afterwards. And then if that's too slow, simply move back further in the snow and start from there. When you're hitting a box for the first time, it's really tempting to go as slow as possible because you don't know what it's going to feel like, and it seems like if you fall when you're going slow, that's going to be less of a big deal than if you fall when you're going fast. But the thing is, if you're going too slow, you're making it much harder for yourself. Obviously, as I said before, you can go too fast, but it's unlikely, especially when you're trying it for the first time. Alright, so you got the right speed and you are pointed directly at the box and perfectly lined up. Now I'm going to go over what you need to know and what you need to do when you're on the box. So the most important thing is keeping a flat base. It can be really tempting to get slightly on a heel edge or a toe edge, especially the heel edge if you are a bit nervous about it and maybe opening up your shoulder to face downhill, or kind of getting on your heel edge to maybe slow down. You want to make sure that your board stays completely flat. On the box, unlike in the snow, you can't turn on your edge. So you want to slide across the box completely flat, and that'll help you avoid falling. Another thing to think about is your body positioning. You want to make sure that you're leading with your front shoulder rather than your chest. So just like when you're snowboarding, instead of opening up your shoulder and looking downhill in the direction you're going, keep that front shoulder closed and just turn your head to look where you're going down the box. Doing this will help you make it all the way to the end of the feature, and it'll also help you keep your board completely flat. As soon as you open up your front shoulder, it's really easy to just start going on your heel edge, and then you're really likely to just fall backwards. So make sure you stay over your board. One thing to think about is keeping your front hand over the nose of your board and your back hand over the tail of your board the entire time that you're riding along the box. The other thing about body positioning is you want to keep an athletic stance. That means you want to bend your knees and make sure you avoid bending too much at the waist. So you'll probably naturally bend a little bit forward at the waist, but if you bend too far over, you're going to get on your toe edge. So make sure that you bend at the knees and maybe slightly bend at the waist and keep that athletic stance across the box. If you don't bend your knees and you are completely straight-legged all the way across the box, it's really hard to maintain your balance that way and absorb any unexpected things that might happen. So sometimes a box is sticky and your board is going to not slide completely smoothly all the way across. If you're bending your knees, it's going to be way easier to absorb that and keep going. It's also much better when you fall if you are bending your knees because you are that much closer to the ground. So the lower you are to the ground, the more your knees are bent, the better it's going to feel. And the last thing, when you reach the end of the box, just simply ride off and keep going. Don't jump, don't ollie, don't worry about any of that when you're hitting a box for the first time. The easiest thing to do is to just simply ride off the box. You don't have to jump off of it. Hope you find these tips helpful when you're hitting a box for the first time, or if you're struggling with a 50-50 and making it to the end of the box without falling. If you're still struggling, let me know in the comments below what's going wrong, if you can figure it out. If you're not sure what's going wrong, if you can find me on Instagram and send me a video of yourself attempting a 50-50, I'll take a look at it. As always, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.